Welcome back. In this video we'll be having a look at extending the Codeigniter core. Now sometimes you may wish to add certain features to the Codeigniter core, and luckily Codeigniter provides us with a way to do so. First, let's have a look at how Codeigniter classes work. Now Codeigniter lives inside of its own folder, and by default it's called System. Here's the core folder. It holds all the classes that make the Codeigniter core. These classes are loaded by default. You see, we have controller, we have model, we have loader, and then there's the libraries folder that holds all the classes that you need to load manually, such as card, email, and form validation classes. Now you don't want to mess with files inside of the system folder, because if you alter these and you need to upgrade Codeigniter later on, all of your changes will be lost. Instead, you can either replace or extend Codeigniter classes. And let me show you how that works. Say you want to completely replace the session class and maybe replace it with a class that uses PHP native sessions instead of Codeigniter sessions. Well, first you locate the system folder in which the original class lives. And in this case, that's the libraries folder. So let's just open up that file. And as you can see, it's called CI session by default. Close that out again. Now, if you wish to replace the CI session with your own class, you need to locate the same folder but in your application directory. So that would be here. Now, as you can see, no files live here yet except for index.html. So let's just create a new PHP file and make sure it has the same name as the original class. Now, inside of that file, you will create a class with the same name as the original class, which is CI_session. Now remember, if you do it like this, you completely replace the session class with your own session class. So that means that if you want to be able to use the same methods as in the original class, you will need to create them all. So you need to be very careful when creating a class like this. And this is why I'm just going to delete this. Now, what's much more common and much less error prone is that you want to add features to an existing Codeigniter class, or just change the workings of a single method. For instance, it would be nice if we could secure our application in the constructor of the parent controller class instead of having to add that to every controller we create. Well, you don't want to mess with the original controller class, but we can extend it. Again, we locate the folder the class normally lives in. In this case, that would be the core folder. And like before, we'll just create a new class inside of that folder. But instead of naming it controller, we'll prefix the name with my_ in capitals. Now that would make the complete name my_controller. And inside of that file, we'll just create a class called my_controller. And we'll make sure it extends CI_controller. Now the way this works is every time Codeigniter loads a class, it checks the application directory for a class with the my prefix. And if it finds such a class, like this, it will load that as well. So in this case, when the controller class is loaded, my controller is also loaded. Now let's just create a constructor for this class. And just like with a normal controller, we need to run the parent constructor inside of that constructor first. So now our myController class is ready, and we can extend all of our controllers from myController instead of CI controller. So let's just do that right away. We'll change this to my, and we'll change this to my, and then we'll just change this to myController as well. Save these all out. Now because all of these controllers extend myController, every feature that I add to my controller is also available in these controllers. Let's just check that out. Let's just dump and say hello from my controller. And if we visit our website, there you go. It says hello from my controller. Tell you what, why don't we just take this code that secures our controllers out of the welcome controller constructor and just paste it in here. Now what this will do is it'll check for authentication for all controllers, because every controller that extends this will first run this security check. and that means we can safely remove it here. Now we do need to cater for one exception, because we do not want the user's login action to be secure. Otherwise it will just keep redirecting to itself. So we'll just have to extend the logged in check and say that URI underscore string should not equal user's login. And maybe we could even extend that just a little bit further by creating a no redirect array containing all the actions that we do not want to be secure. And now all we need to do is check that the URI string is not within that array. So we'll be looking for URI string inside of the no redirect array. And if at a later stage we want to add some other controller action to not be secured, we just add it to the array like so. Okay, let's just check to make sure that it works. Reload the page, and sure enough we're being redirected to user login. And as you can see, that's not found, and that's because it should be user's login, not user login. So we'll just correct that right here. Check it one more time. And sure enough, we're being redirected to user's login. And once we're there, we're not being redirected any further. So that all seems to work. And the good thing is that if we ever need to change this feature, we only need to change it here. And this helps to keep your code dry. Dry as in don't repeat yourself. So extending the core is a really powerful solution, and you can do a similar thing for models. If you create a myModel class, you can add all kinds of CRUD features to that class that you can use in every model that extends that myModel. Now, if you're interested in creating a myModel class, there's extensive explanation about that in another Tuts Plus course called Build a CMS with Codeigniter. But for now, we're going to go over to GitHub and use the myModel class that was created by Jamie Rumbelow. And this is a really cool and well thought out class. So I'll just download the entire repository, and then I'll just paste the myModel class inside of the core folder. Now, there's plenty of documentation on how to use it on GitHub, and I suggest you really read through that because it's, it contains a lot of features. But I'll just show you the basics. Say I want to create a questions model, then I'll just create a model called question model. So let's just do that now. Now inside, I'll just create a class called question underscore model, and I'll need to make sure it extends the myModel class. And for basic usage, that's just about all I need to do. myModel will guess that the table name is plural of question, so questions, which it is, and it will assume that the primary key is called ID, which is also true. Now there's just one glitch. If the database class is already loaded, like it is in our application because of iNorth, we need to create a constructor. So let's just do that. That'll be a public function called construct. And of course, what we need to do is run the parent constructor here as well. And now here's what we have to do. Inside of the myModel class, there's a variable called database, and that needs to be set to the value of the Codeigniter database model. So we'll just do this underscore database equals this DB, and that should do the trick. So with that, we are ready to rumble. Okay, let's try that out. Go into the user's controller, and inside of the login method, let's just load the question model. So we'll do this load model, and we'll make sure to pass in the question model. And then we'll just create a variable called questions and make that equal to this question model get underscore all. And that's just a myModel method that will fetch all records. Okay, let's take this questions variable and dump it to the screen like so. Now I've already inserted some questions into the questions table, so let's see what this comes up with. There you have it, 2 questions. So let's just do one more. Instead of get all, we'll just do get and then pass in an ID of 1. Now this will get a single question. See if that works as well. And sure it does. So with that, let's just create some models for answers and users as well. We'll just copy this and paste it into the model directory again and rename it to answermodel.php. And then we'll just copy it one more time and rename it to usermodel.php. There you go. Open those up and make sure that we adjust the names accordingly. So that's user, and then this should be answer. So remember that a question was related to a user. Well, we can cater for that inside of our questions model. Let's just do a protected belongs to, and that needs to be spelled right, and set it to an array. Now inside of this array, we can list all the models that this question belongs to. So that would be a user in our case. Now what my model will do is it will assume there is a model called user_model and a foreign key called user_ID, and both of these assumptions are true, so we do not need to specify them, but of course we could. For now this will do. So let's just copy this and go to the answers model, because every answer also belongs to a user, but then an answer also belongs to a question. Now we do need to specify a foreign key here, because remember, the foreign key here is called questions ID in plural, and my model will assume that it's question ID. So we do need to specify that, and we do that by adding an array with a key of primary underscore key, and we need to set that to questions ID, which is the name of our primary key. Now these relationships work two ways. So if this answer belongs to a question, then this question should have many answers. And to cater for that, we'll just set the protected has many variable and set it using an array again, and that'll just be answers. And again, since the foreign key in the answers table is not called question ID but questions ID in plural, we need to specify this as well. So let's just copy this and bring it into the questions model just like so. And the last thing we need to do is set up dependencies in the user model, and we'll just say that a user has many questions and he also has many answers. Okay, so let's just hope we didn't make any mistakes there and go and test it out. Now the way this works is that you can fetch records the way you did before, but you can specify if you want to load a dependency as well. So we could do with, and then we could just say user. So we'll be getting question number 1, but we'll also be getting the user that this question belongs to. So let's try that out. We'll just reload the page, and there it is. There's our question and there's our user. Pretty smart, huh? Now in the same way, we can also get all the answers with this question. Let's just go back and see if that works. Nope, we're getting an error. My model is looking for an undefined index of models, so that means we probably need to specify the model name for the answers. So I will just do model and then say that it's called the answer underscore model. And let's just see if it works now. Reload the page, and sure enough, there it is. Here's our question, and here are all of our answers. Now, I would really like to see what queries are being run here, and inside of our welcome controller, I think we have the thing for that. That's right, it's right over here. Let's just cut that and bring it into our welcome controllers constructor so that it will be run in every controller. Go back to the browser and reload, and here it is. Okay, these are our queries, and as you can see, 2 queries are being run, one to fetch the question and the other one to fetch all the answers with that question. So don't let this fool you. While it is a single result, actually 2 queries are being run. So if you're having problems with performance, you might be better off, just using a simple join statement there instead of the my model relations. Okay, so in this video we had a look at some great ways to extend Codeigniter without having to touch the actual core. Now in the next video we'll create some thin controllers and fat models. I'll see you there.